I want to introduce Nate. So I don't think Nate really needs an introduction because Nate's Nate. Like, who doesn't know Nate? But Nate has been a supporter of this group since the beginning, before it was this big. And it's an honor to have him speak to the group, and let's give him a round of applause.
How about in the far back? Mitch, good, cool, sweet. Look at that, like that's 20 thumbs up. Give me another round of thumbs up back there. Oh, really, I like that. Cool, well, do you know what? I mean, this, man, I look at everyone out here, it's like, I've been telling everyone, it's like a family reunion. I see a lot of really familiar faces. I see a lot of new faces, faces I've never met before. So after this event, my hope is that you'll come up and introduce yourself to me. I'd love to meet and talk to all of you and tell me a little bit about your life. The other thing I'd like to say is just acknowledge Ben in the Product Hive group. Ben said I've been here early on. Ben and the supporting team are just incredible people. Like, look at this group, look at the people, look at the continuity. It takes a huge amount of effort to clearly communicate to a huge group of people, get them to show up and enjoy really meaningful content. So I just really hope to build a story and honor and serve you guys and hopefully represent Plural, not Plural Site, but Product Hive well. Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the why. Like, why did I decide to build a presentation around a lawnmower? And the thing is that I'm really obsessed with product development. I'm really obsessed with technology and user experience design. And this obsession, I'm sure most of you are like me, it's toxic and it's also really healthy, and it ends up infecting my brain on runs. Like, I'm running a lot and then all I can do is just think about product management and user experience design and problems that need to be solved. And so I decided to use a lawnmower, something simple to solve this problem. For those of you who don't know me, this is my family. This is the thing that I care about. This is what gets me up every single day, along with my team. So this is Sarah, and then I have 4 sons, Avin, Eli, Miles, and Ryder. We live literally just right up the road here. And I've been in Utah my whole life. I lived in Michigan for a couple of years, but really Utah is my home, and I absolutely love this state. I love this community, and I always want to continue to invest in it. I want to reference, this is just a context slide. Like, the whole reason why I want to show you this slide specifically is that when I think about product management, user experience design and engineering and developing products, this is everything to me. This is a reference from a talk that I gave back at Mind the Product in June of last year. And when you think about how you develop products, every single little morphology or little icon on here matters to me greatly. Today's talk is not going to talk about the healthy product heart. I already gave that talk. The thing that I really want to focus on today is actually just a very small portion of it, and I actually think it's probably one of the biggest problems that we face in developing technology products is this concept between delivering or shipping and output a thing versus actually aiding product teams around outcomes. And so this is Nate Walkingshaw's take on delivering outcomes. So the other thing for context is, I feel like us as technology folks today, we're authoring the pages. And the thing that I always reference to is really around the Industrial Revolution. So, somebody walked into a cotton field, plucked off a piece of cotton, and then all of a sudden, I know that it's kind of weird, but like, we're wearing clothes today. And so if you think about the Industrial Revolution and the cotton gin, the cotton ginning, the sewing machine, the collection of all these things came together and built cities. They built infrastructure. They built a lot of process. And with AI, machine learning, a lot of the technology today that's coming together, I don't think we actually know what we're doing quite yet. I don't think we know what it's going to do. But I truly believe that we, right now, the people in this room, we're actually authoring the pages of whatever is going to actually be created. And when I wake up every day, like my work is my play. Like, I love going to work every day. I love the teams that sit around this office. I love the creation, I love the conversation, I love the creativity, I love the discovery, I love learning. And I think what I love so much about the product management community specifically, along with the technologists, is that we all have a learner's mindset. We love to learn. And so that's really kind of the inspiration that sits behind this. Historically, we've always been focused on outputs. What does that mean? So that usually means like waterfall product development to me. That means like we're committed to a ship date at the end of the quarter. We ship a really beautiful design. We don't really know what was behind it. We don't know our intention. And we give it a Viking send-off and we pray that it does what we hope it'll do. So, and it just, the heart and soul in it is missing. And I really want to talk about, how we develop that. So I'm trying to move so you guys don't, I want you guys to see slides, not my face. Just listen, just look at the slides. So, I always have this slide in here. Look, if at any point in time you don't find this useful, like please, feel free to, you can go. Like my intention for building the presentation is to really serve the audience. If my mic gets weird, sorry. So, this is the whole product story around outcomes and outputs. This is the story of a lawnmower. I know that it's weird, like why would I choose a lawnmower for software products? Well, I think it's appropriate. It's a really simple use case. By raise of hands, who knows what a lawnmower is? That's why. Cool. So usually what I do with, with my product management teams, I've done this with pretty much the vast majority of my teams, is I actually ask them to draw me a lawnmower. Mike Baird, will you raise your hand back there? That's Mike all the way back there. He's the one who actually illustrated this lawnmower. Okay, and I said, hey Mike, come into this room and draw me a lawnmower. He's like, all right, so he illustrates a sweet lawnmower for me to do that. He drew something cool on the board. And then after that, I'm like, hey, will you design the morphology, the things that you know the most about a lawnmower to make it function? And so usually when we do this, almost every time, pretty consistently, these specific data points are drawn. And does this land for you guys? Is this what you would expect to see? Yeah? Yeah, it's interactive, so feel free to yell at me. So the other thing that I'll do is after that this has been done, I'll just quietly ask them to write team. And like, look, dude, when you guys, when this concept comes together, it is so sweet. Because I think about Honda, right? And by the way, this story's made up. I have no idea if Honda actually does this or not. It's totally made up. So, but if I were going to design for an output versus an outcome, an outcome versus an output, this is what I want you guys to do. And so, you would assume that they've got a propulsion team, they've got a wheel team, right? They've got a handle team. And don't just think about this as a singular lawnmower. Think about the entire lawnmower line within Honda, riding lawnmowers as well. So that team would own, the entire terrain team. Make sense? You guys tracking? Cool. So, once I decide to do that, I really want to build these teams specifically around those affordances or those specific projects. Now, I've already talked a ton about how you build teams, but I want to just come back to it one more time, is that cross-functional, co-located product management, UX, and engineering is your core team. They're not in silos. They all sit together, they all work together, they all create together. When they build things together from the concept, the very beginning stage, all the way to the end, trust me, the work product is so much better. And the reason why is because it's diversity of thought. You want the diversity of thought at the table. Now, here at Pluralsight, we're a little different because this is our core team, but content is our core competency, so content would be in this. Data science and data engineering is a huge piece of this equation. And so I want the diversity of thought, and I'm telling you, not only from a product management, user experience design, and engineering, women, men, ethnicity, This is a big deal. The diversity of thought, because for Pluralsight, our product is shipped to 150 different countries. So I want as many thoughtful minds around the table at the ideation stage. So I won't go into great detail here, but this is what I'm really committed to. So I'll zoom back out. So once I've done that, this is what an outcome looks like. And for those of you who can't read that way back in the room, it says 12,000 hours, 6,000 mows, 0.38 acres, and 2 hours per mow. This is how long the intended use of this mower is supposed to last. So when Honda got together and they thought about an outcome, now this is completely different from the use of a mower, which is really what we do a lot. And I'll describe what the difference between the outcome versus the daily use or the weekly use of a mower looks like. So, my hope, my intention is that when I, design a mower, it'll meet this expectation. So I always talk about use versus the outcome. So this would be like, what the use would look like. And this is, as we know in product management or UX design, we know this is the user story. So this is a simple narrative. This is something that every single person shares and does when they buy a lawnmower, own a lawnmower, they have this shared narrative. And look, this is a huge blocker for a lot of teams, because a lot of teams will always say, well, I own this section of the narrative, or I own the entire narrative. And this comes to dependencies, cross-functional teams working on different sections of this use case. And so I really want to just pluck it apart. Sorry, the clicker's a little slow. So this is, these individual teams are wrapped around this narrative. So someone doesn't own the entire narrative. The entire narrative is conceptual, so you understand, what's going on. Now, I'll use Pluralsight as a great example. For those of you who don't know who we are or what we do, but we're the largest developer IT and creative training library in the world. So we train developers. And so we have a function or a feature within our application called learning paths or skill paths. Okay, we have one single dedicated team to that product line inside of our core. But that's a totally different story than how someone learns, the simple narrative, right? All the way through our app ecosystem. If you've got a lawnmower, right, and if I just continue to let this build out here, right, I've got 3 teams all working on that simple narrative. That daily or weekly use is going to hit that outcome. 12,000 hours, 6,000 mows, 0.38 acres, 2 hours. Does that make sense? You see the difference between the two pretty clearly? Okay, we'll have Q&A at the end. So I love to solve really complex product problems, this use case here, right, through corner cases. And this really was the inspiration behind the talk, was this corner case. And the corner case that I think is really interesting, and the way that they work, is I'll find a small section of the marketplace that's to the extreme. So just by raise of hands in here, who do you think the corner case for a lawnmower, if you looked at a user group, who do you think they'd be?
Golf course.
Okay, that's good. He said golf course. Who else?
Lawn maintenance company.
What was that?
Lawn maintenance.
I like what you said. Lawn maintenance is perfect. So, again, the inspiration of this was, was me going on this run. So focusing on a segment of the extreme would look like a landscaping company. So this isn't Nate that lives, up here, and I use my lawnmower maybe once or twice, every month. This would be somebody that's mowing 30, 40 lawns per day. A ton of use. Really useful to solve the simple narrative for the rest of the population. And the reason why you do that is because usually you'll solve for 80% of your user base, but the things that sit on the outside are actually probably going to be your one-step adjacencies. And what does a one-step adjacency mean? Well, from lawn mowing or from landscapers, right, they might use a trimmer. And right, a trimmer wouldn't do a mower's job. Like a leaf blower wouldn't do a mower's job. But I can guarantee you when you mow a lawn, you're probably going to need a trimmer and you're probably going to need a mower. And you're going to hear a lot about it. So it tells you where your product will probably most likely need to go if you don't know know your one-step adjacencies outside of your product. It also really helps you understand if you're going to solve the right problem. So I love an as-lived example, and we're going to have to cue up the video just one sec, not quite yet. So the inspiration of this is I go on this run every single morning. When I go on this run, I actually pass this 8-acre park. And when I pass this 8-acre park, like a couple of things have happened to me multiple times when I go on this run. And you know, I run into this guy. This guy's name is Colby. And is Colby missing something on his lawnmower? Bag, yeah, it's a great observation. So I run on this sidewalk, right? And I'm running up east here. And when I run on this sidewalk, what ends up happening is, let me go to Dante here. So this is Dante. What does she have? Yeah, it's great. Here's the thing. Look at this. Do you see what else she has right here? She has the bag prepared, right? So when the bag gets full, she's going to dump the bag into the grass bag and then put it in the back of her truck. Super well prepared. And Dante is like, she's amazing. She is such an inspiration if you really have her on your team, and I'll show you why. So Dante, she, you know, this is her work product, guys. This is Colby's. And like, I just didn't get it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why is your bag off the bottom of your mower? Because this is happening week over week over week over week. I'm running through grass clippings all the time. And so what happened is I decided to, on this run, turn around. I decided to interview these guys on like why they do this, which is like the whole inspiration for outcomes versus outputs. And you guys will get a kick out of it. So I'll see if this is the video. Yep. Okay, you want to pause this and then switch over? Because I want you guys to hear this.
All right, Dante, tell me why, was it Colby? Tell me why Colby doesn't do that.
Because he's going to the squares, so when he puts his back on, he'll hit the bottom, scrape the bottom, so then the grass is going to come out anyways.
Yeah,
So he
cool.
blows his.
Okay, look. Did you guys hear that at all, really? Okay, tell me what happened.
The bag's not doing the job.
Yeah, what is the bag not doing?
It knocks people around his chest.
Yeah. That's right. So look, dudes, this is ridiculous, right? So what happens is that when Colby has his lawnmower, I want you to think about Honda, you guys. Like when they have to know that this is happening. So the corner case is there's, this piece of concrete, this is a park strip. The park strip has an incline on it. Okay, and what happens is every single time Colby hits the park strip, it takes the bottom of the bag and rips it off and then dumps grass everywhere. Like, that is insane. So Colby's hitting park strips every single day, right? And the thing about it is that this is like fundamental for me. This is fundamental. Like, did you talk to your customers? Did you look at the corner case? Because look at all the people that sit up on this bench that have a Honda lawnmower, right? That probably have an incline that when they mow their lawn, the bag rips off the bottom and then you have grass every place. Does that make sense? The other thing is like the life of this lawnmower, 12,000 hours, 6,000 mows. Like a deeper dive with Dante would have you understand that like the life of the mower, even though it's being serviced, is like not even actually meeting its life. And I haven't ran the math, but you could assume that Colby makes between 10 and 15 bucks an hour. And then you could compound that amount of revenue or money that's being lost on Colby having to bag all the grass, blow all the grass, and then maybe the amount of lawns that don't get met. Now this is Sandy Parks and Rec. And Colby and Dante, that's what they do. They mow parks every single day. And, super, super annoying. I talked to Colby, real frustration. Real frustration for these guys. The other thing that I want to have in the back of your mind is that this is specifically tied to the different personas that we have. So I always like to go back to personas. So I've got the corner case, right, which is the extreme. I've got the corner case that is like the everyday, simple narrative that we're focused on, kind of the Nate Walkingshaw or the rest of us in the room, right? The other thing is that you also have a supplier. right? You have somebody that's going to service the lawnmower. And if you think about the instruction manual that was made for the lawnmower, the intended use statement that was behind it is that this gets into recurring revenue. This gets into SaaS products at scale, right? What's happening is that when I bring my mower in, through a service interval, and I have these cross-functional teams working on the product, I potentially could change the narrative and the life of the mower, depending on who you have on the other part of it. So always be constantly aware. And look, hopefully in the back of your head, I haven't even installed any IoT software inside of the mower to actually know what's happening. So I want you guys to think about that as well. So, how do you measure an outcome? And really the outcome is happiness over time. And so I built a graph here that shows, the number, the happiness over time to 12,000 hours. Now the reason why I, started out at 80% is because I buy the mower, I'm super pumped on the mower, it performs well, and then I'm I'm pretty stoked, I'm pretty happy about the mower. And eventually a lawnmower, because it's a piece of hardware, now software has a completely different view of this. We actually could, cause this curve to flatten and then even go up depending on iteration and cycles and versioning, which we'll get into. This right here, by the way, does not represent who I am. I'm not a guy that buys a mower, that brings the mower in for regular service intervals. Who this looks like is my father-in-law. He's really good at maintaining his lawnmower. This also is not me. This next version is kind of who I am. I mow my lawn, and look, the other thing I'd say is my dad and my father-in-law, their mowers last for 25 years. My dad literally still has the same Honda mower for 25 years. It's the same mower, and he services it. He winterizes it. He does air filters and oil changes. He is such a good user. I'm a train wreck. I mow my lawn, and then I put it away, and then the engine sees next season, because I don't take care of it, right? And this is why I always say, one thing that you can count on, right? And hopefully this animated kid, peeps do weird things. And so the hope here, yeah, and look, a lot of these people that we design products for, they're the loud minority. We listen to these customers all the time. And the hope and the thought and the desire is really for you to look at the simple narrative, the corner case. It covers 80% of that total utilization and usage, and you design and build cross-functional and co-located teams for these types of outcomes. Not the weird, I don't know what they do with my product. We hear from these people all the time inside of our product ecosystem, where they want one specific, ad or widget taken off or deleted. And we hear from them a lot because they send us a lot of emails or a lot of Slack messages or whatever. Just don't do it. So this, this gets into versioning. This is kind of one of my most favorite topics within this talk, is because this is our ability as a community to actually change the products that we work on a perpetual basis. So if I tie this, back to the lawnmower, and I choose one specific set of the narrative, so they top off the fuel and put the mower away. So hopefully, you're in your head, Nate's pulled his mower out of the garage, I wheeled it into the driveway, right? And I put it to choke, and then I pulled it, and then I put it back into run, and then I'm actually using my mower. This right here is they top off the fuel and put the mower away, is when I'm the product team and I'm focused on fuel, right? What I'm going to do is I'm looking at an ungloved hand, on a gas cap. Okay, now, as I begin to iterate on my product, and people are relatively happy, and this is the first service interval, and then, I do this whole entire, communication with the service providers in the field, and Nate brings his, lawnmower back in for service, and guess what? You've, had the ability to look at a gloved hand, or maybe you redesigned the, round handle to a square handle, or to a square handle. And the thing is that this changes your retention curve. Every new version, every new iteration that you release has the ability to change retention. And the thing that's really important here is that, the three major components that I try to focus on when building products is headlights, taillights, and happiness. So headlights is usage. Taillights is billings, how much people are willing to pay, right? And the last part is happiness, NPS, Net Promoter Score. And you can measure happiness a lot of different ways. But when I think about versioning, when I ship something new or additive, a +1, or a brand new innovative experience, like retention has the ability to actually go the other way on us. So you're going to have to put things inside of your product experience, analytics, to know where things are headed between happiness, usage, and billings. Like that affects likelihood to buy and length of stay. The same thing for this mower. So you're constantly shipping and iterating new versions of this. And so make sure you have your happiness over time retention curves in the back of your mind. So I always like to tie this back to software. So we've talked about a lawnmower. How does this actually work inside of developing software technology products? And it's pretty easy to take it right back to the same type of model. But what I would say before I kind of show you Pluralsight's example of this is this is our browse page. This is faceted search and browse. It's our new experience that we've released nearly 2 years ago. And I will tell you right now, we didn't have a really good sense for what our intention was. So what is the intention of your product? What was the intention of our product? And since we're a learning company, right, we have two significant intentions around different people that come to our product. And it took us almost 3 years to really figure out what our intended use of our product was. And the two things are time to learn, so we have to teach someone to learn something, and then the time to effectively apply that knowledge. Now, me teaching you something today is cool. The hope is, though, is that you take what I teach you, you actually apply it, and it betters your life. So our products do things for people. And so we had to figure out what our intention is. The other thing that I would ask is, do you have a lawnmower yet? Like, have you built a product that can actually create an outcome? Because a lot of our different products are in different, let's say different life cycles. I don't think Pluralsight's product was really in a great position to effectively measure learning until we really shipped a holistic, unified experience. And when we started in this space, we were a B2C company, and then we migrated into an enterprise platform. And so our product is really wide and it's pretty deep right now, and we didn't really have an entire holistic experience of a complete lawnmower around an intention. So I just ask yourselves, where are you at in your origin story? So if I use this time to effectively apply learning, I want to go back and just put this at the center of what we do here at Pluralsight. So we've got different teams, right? They're all organized around and this is our learner ecosystem, not our SDL, our skills development leader experience, our enterprise experience. We have community, we have mentors, channels. These are all different product lines, and they all have an intention. And every single one of those teams are, aligned to time to effectively applied learning, right? You have 3 experts, 1 path per quarter, or 20 courses per year. Now, the beginning statistics that we had, they were really fundamental. It was just like average logins. Like this person would log in 3 times per month, right? And our data science and data engineering team helped us learn a ton about our intentions, like the effectively applied learning. And so as I look out at this group right here, I'm doing what's called in our context instructor-led training. So we could also say spraying and praying. I'm just hoping that you guys grasp concepts. So when you build a software product, and you have so much more horsepower within that product to understand learning styles. So do I have a bits and jits learner? Do I have a high focus learner? Do I have a low focus learner? How do I break up content medium types to deliver a content strategy that allows you to learn? And so having that wiring under the hood so that we can actually see if applied learning is happening, so important. So important for us to understand that concept at scale. So hopefully you're tying this back into the products that you have. The products that are used by your individual users and how that intention may work for them. So I always come back to the corner case as well for software products. And I'll allow this to build out. And this is specifically around our time to learn. And I'd love to have a really meaningful, fruitful discussion around this. But depending on the size of your organization and the product that the problem that you're trying to solve at scale, what happens is that there's a ton of shared experiences within your product that actually are meeting the same outcome. And so, the corner case is Persona A. Persona A is actually solving the problems for the remaining users in my product. And this little bracket that will show up over here, hopefully will build out TTL, which is time to learn. Now, depending on the size, like we have a B2C, so a consumer-based business. We also have a B2B business. Okay, and what I would tell you is that our personas yo-yo. So Persona A at a small company is actually all three of these people. Like a CTO or a technology leader at a small emerging startup, they're actually doing the exact same thing. Now, if I go to an enterprise customer, these are actually 3 or 4 totally separate, different users, but they're actually doing the same activities and they're shared. And the goal is to get them to time to learn. I need to teach the technology leader how to transform their organization or close their technology skills gap. And so a lot of these shared narratives and shared stories are equal. When you dig into this, we did what was called a hotspots drill when we first got here 3 years ago. And really what happened is when we looked at those two distinct experiences, our B2B platform and our learner ecosystem, if we looked where users were the vast majority of the time, 93%, I think, is David Platt around here? There you are. He's all the way back. 93% of learners on the course page? Yeah. So 93% of our traffic was sitting on one page. And our product was pretty broad, learner-wise, but nobody really went across our ecosystem. And the same thing on the B2B side, right? They were just in the analytics. Just in the analytics piece. And that could have been, small and emerging, commercial, a big customer base, all the way down to an individual learner. Does that make sense? Yeah? I see a lot of nods. So this is, I love the as-lived or the use case. So Kenji and Nick McCleary, they did this wonderful enterprise lifecycle. This is all seeded data. So I don't want you guys to latch onto this. This isn't real. The whole point is contextual. Like you understand what's happening here. So we have a buyer, a dev manager, right, and then a technology leader. And my hope is this is the entire story. So I have 3 different personas. This is the entire life cycle of our product. And they use different aspects. These are these shared experiences. And just think about the yo-yo effect. This one person could do all of these things, or 3 people could do independent things. But this shared outcome, time to learn, or time to effectively apply that learning, all is happening inside this product. Pretty cool, yeah? Yeah. Okay. It's a quiet group out there. Yeah, you guys are so nice, Seth. Cool. So I'll wrap it up. I'll let this build out on these 4 different bullet points. Doing this in blue jeans, man. It's not the greatest user experience. So look, I really want to come back to leading with an intention. When you start the mission of your company, the mission of our company is democratizing technology. But really what sits underneath that is creating progress through technology that lifts the human condition. I feel like the vast majority, if not everyone within Pluralsight, could cite that mission and that vision to anyone in here. And they know, our intention. Our intention is to democratize technology learning. We care so much about how people learn. And so I would wonder, how well does the entire organization or company, how well do they know the mission, the vision, and the intention of what your product's trying to do? Organizing teams, I've written a ton, on how to organize teams, product experience teams. Human-centered, the user breaks the tie. They're cross-functional, they're co-located. I care a ton about how you lead and organize these teams. Shared outcomes and narratives. A lot of people think the narratives are independent. They're usually, very seldomly in your core product, they're usually shared narratives. The individual pieces of that narrative are owned by those individual teams. And then measuring happiness and retention. Look, at the beginning, at the onset of your innovation, or your big idea, your +1, and or your bug fix, like, you have to know that when you ship something new into your product, what it's doing. You have to know if it's actually aimed at your intention. So make sure that you embed all of your products at the very beginning with the necessary analytics to be able to measure length of stay, likelihood to buy, and happiness. Right? Really, really important. Okay, I think I've got, and the last thing is versioning. And I think, yeah, this is just my ending slide. If you don't know, I mean, I have written a ton, like free resources are out on Medium. I've written a ton. There's a book, Product Leadership. I think we're going to hand out some books when we're done with this. And man, look, thanks for your time. You guys are awesome.
We have some time for some Q&A, and then we'll end at 1 o'clock. So if you have a question, raise your hand and we're going to give you a free book. So, Seth, you're second, over here first. Tell us your name and then, yeah.
Hi, my name is Sebastian.
Yeah.
One of the problems I've always run into is someone in customer service is being yelled at by the person doing crazy things. And the customer service team yells really loud, and that's what's listened to in the organization. Settle that noise and help everyone else focus on the corner cases instead of spinning their wheels on the guy being drugged by the lawnmower.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll offer a recommendation. You can see if it'll work for you. So, you know, we also have that problem. And it wasn't just from customer service, it was from sales, it was from marketing, it was from mostly the go-to-market team. Like the go-to-market team would be out on the front lines talking to customers, or they're trying to close like a $3 million deal at the end of the quarter, and they need something, you know, back into the product. So, you know, there's a whole basket of issues that are pretty systemic to building products that you run into on top of the one that you just described. So, you know, we got ahead of it, and what we decided to do is every Monday we build what's called a co-core meeting. And the co-core meeting is designed to bring the entire company together, whoever would like to be there, but it was intended for the go-to-market team to find out what's being continuously discovered and continuously delivered every single week. So this is, you know, this started really small when I was here. You know, there was like 8 or 9 people. I don't know the exact numbers. I always get this wrong. It's definitely over 250 people for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what we're releasing. And I'll tell you why we do it. Look, when you bring the go-to-market team into the way that you build and develop products, it really helps them see how hard the iterative development is. And so what happens is, like, I used skill paths or learning paths before. We went through 32 different design iterations in directed discovery to figure out to learn that we had an 80% confidence rate that we're going to build the right thing. Okay, and this happens a lot through our product ecosystem. But most importantly is that when sales or customer service sees the iterative development, they see the sausage getting made in real time, right? And so what happens is, like, they know that we're not highly confident that we've got something that's going to hunt, right? And so as we go through these different iterations and we gain more confidence and context to the problem that we're trying to solve, and they get to come along with the journey, it's literally mitigated the vast majority of complaints like that, you know, within our organization. So communication, right, is really important, getting ahead of them, but educating them on how you develop products is super important. We have, you know, Directed Discovery has voice of the customer, prototype observation, and CCT, customer confirmation testing, which is really the analytical piece. They get to see every phase of that on every design, from when we're just qualitatively talking to customers to the prototype to the delivery. They're there for the whole entire journey. And so that's mitigated the vast majority of concern. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Seth Jenks.
That's my name.
There he is.
So my main question is, how did you come to the outcomes that you chose up there? Like, for example, 20 sessions viewed.
Yeah.
Why not 5?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
not 40? How do you, and what gives you confidence that that's the right one?
That's awesome, man. So look, I'll go back to the lawnmower. Okay, so the lawnmower, and then I'll get into the specifics here. Like when Honda gets together, their technology or their product development organization, when they get together, like you're designing a lawnmower to do a job. Like they don't know that it's 12,000 hours, 6,000 mows, right? They don't know that. They're putting a program together as a hypothesis to meet the outcome. Now the thing is that we knew that our product was intended to teach someone how to learn. We knew that the time to learn was a big deal. Now when you think about time to learn, I don't want you to think about it like I need to teach you something quickly. Like because of the data science and engineering team, when they looked at our problem statement with us, when I learned that I had a high focus learner or a low focus learner, and I'm going to get really specific. I'm going to give Seth a meta answer here for a sec. So we looked at one person at 6 hours of content. So like for instance, you will watch 6 hours of content, and I'll watch 6 hours of content. I might watch it end to end, but you might watch 360 clips. So little bits, little just-in-time learning, but we still watch the same amount of learning together. So like when we came up with the first like pass of analytics or understanding like usage, dude, it started out so fundamental. It really was average logins. And then as we started to look at human behavior behind like those actual designs, and then the data science looked at the patterns within that, it's like, man, we are on a much different mission right now than average logins per learner. Because the applied learning in their life, that's actually what they wanted. That was their primacy goal. We didn't understand, right, that was the value proposition for them until we started talking to them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the time to applied learning is a journey we're still on today. We have 2 ways we can measure that, right? One of those would be like in projects. So like you could do a project, so I taught you Angular and then you applied it in a project. That still isn't good enough around applied learning. An applied learning objective for them would be like, I taught you something today, and then you were able to shift some strategy within your company called human-centered design, something like that, right? So we're still on the journey on trying to define truly what that is. I think what's most important is that we actually now know what it is, and we can start to define it, and then as we gain more clarity, we really refine it over time. And I think that's just, product development in its entirety. Like you're never done. You're constantly learning and evolving on and refining what that metric should ultimately be. I think finding out what it is though was the hardest piece for us. Is that helpful?
Yeah, so you guys had a BI team that helped out.
Yeah, we have a data science and engineering team that helped us unpack it. And a pretty meaningful who continues to work on the problem with us. Yeah.
Right here and then right here.
So the job to be done could be the same, which is like mowing the lawn. But the motivation of each of the user groups could be different. For instance, one of the user personas, it could just be like helping out a neighborly grandma, and the other user persona could just be more like based on the reward system.
Yeah.
But you're building the same product in order to tackle all of these different user personas, and you have probably you're reaching out to 1 million users. You have no clue on who is what is their intrinsic motivation. So how do you build the same product, the same experience, which actually reaches this wide persona, this whole spectrum of user groups?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I think the answer to that is, for Pluralsight, is still TBD on, when I showed you kind of that entire life cycle, and I showed you the individual development manager, right, the buyer, right, and then the individual learner. I think we probably have a pretty clear definition on what the individual motivations and behaviors are for learners, for instance. Buyers and dev managers, I think we're still in the middle of understanding what that overall behavior pattern is. What I could tell you though that is similar is that the behaviors or the analytics that they want behind it is standard. Like what they want, like everyone wants usage. An individual learner would like to know their usage, or me versus my peer group. So what we can see is the events actually overlay. We don't know the motivation behind the primacy goal. Make sense? Yeah.
I'll get the next mic, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm Rudyard, and fantastic presentation. Enjoyed all of it. For good reasons, I am not the CXO of any company. I am a PM, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the audience is PM and UX. So
Yeah.
on Monday morning, I'm going to go sit down at my desk.
Awesome.
And I'm going to say, how am I going to open my garage and get my mower out and start mowing this product lawn
Yeah.
without changing the organization yet?
Yeah.
So could you give me an idea, or us an idea, as maybe a PM or a UX, what do I do starting Monday to start implementing these awesome high-level concepts?
Yeah, dude, it's an awesome question. So, much like you, I started out in the exact same context. I actually will, and I know maybe a lot of the room knows this, but look, dude, I would have never thought in my life I would have been a CXO. Like, I started as a paramedic making $7.14 an hour. Like, I mean, that's my origin story. And so, the feedback that I'd have is, one, I think you can do anything you want in your life. And I would want you to see yourself as becoming a CXO if that's what you wanted. That's the first thing. I would want this to be inspirational for you. The second thing is that the way that and this is again, only contextually specific to how I did it, is that I couldn't eat the elephant all at one time. I had to break apart the pieces. So the reason why this was obsessive for me is that it really was rooted around a narrative, just a simple narrative. That was it. Like, if I just got my whole entire team wrapped around a simple narrative, and it was called Time to Learn, that was a massive step in getting my team in the right direction. Directionally specific. So I don't think you have to come up with some big massive vision or strategy and align the whole organization around it. No. I think in the problem that you're solving, work to solve the simple narrative and the problem that you're trying to work, and then bring as many diverse minds to the problem statement and get their opinion on it. And just start working it over. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Jason Alba.
Hey, Jason. What's going on, man? It's been a while.
Yeah.
He's one of our authors, by the way, you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome opportunity if you ever get to be an author. I'm curious about the idea of making decisions based on data versus gut, right? Because as a product manager, you get to the point where you really feel like you understand more than anybody else, even users, and kind of looking over the horizon. But there's this idea that we should make decisions on data, and sometimes I feel like the data is either dirty or it's not the right data. So can you just talk to data versus gut?
Yeah, that's that's like an hour-long talk. It's a massive talk. I'll reference directed discovery, and the reason why I reference it is because to break problems apart, like it uses kind of three big shared context. And the context is you've got an innovation, right? Something you've never done before. It's complete green space. You've got a +1, which is something that you know around an existing experience, and then you've got OE, operational excellence, which really in our speak is bug fixing, right? So it's stuff that is problematic in the code base or problematic in the UI or the UX, and you need to go solve it. So when it comes down to the way that I kind of experienced the comment from you is confirmation bias. And the thing is that when I'm really passionate about working on a problem, the reason why you want to organize teams with so many diverse thinkers, it's because it really gets your head out of the bias that you're leaning into. Let me tell you one other thing that I think is really important is that the reason why the data and the art, so the art versus the science piece, the upfront part is the qualitative discovery work. The thing that's so beautiful about building cross-functional, co-located teams is that when you ship something, right, and you have data underneath it, that actually tells you how good your qualitative research was. So you can see where the confirmation bias was, and that's the way that I've used data in the past, and it's how I use data today, is that once I decide to, and man, I feel bad because the room's missing a bunch of context, but we go through release cycles. So when we like want to ship a new browse page, it goes into pre-alpha, and that's like 5% of our total users. And then it goes into alpha, which might be like 30% of our total users, and then into GR, general release. So the team did a whole bunch of qualitative guesses, and it might have a whole bunch of bias in it because we had an opinion on what it should be like. Right when it goes to 5% of the total user base, I mean, dudes, like within 6 hours, like on our course page, we know if our qualitative research was good or bad. Right? Because one, you're going to see it in qualitative feedback. Two, we have a star rating 0 to 5. Right? If it's not 80% 4 stars, right, with really crappy qualitative research, we know that we've probably got something wrong in the qualitative process by which we created something new for the product. So, data is intended to use to inform qualitative research. I think your gut, your intuition, I think when you have the balance between the two, it actually just makes you a much better product manager. If you can actually see what your product's doing to others at scale. I was a person, that really had a lot of confirmation bias in my products. And that the statement I always use is, don't build a product for me, build a product for we. And so as a paramedic, I built a bunch of different products to solve paramedic problems. And really what I did, you guys, is I built a product based off of what I thought, not what other paramedics thought. As soon as I started to talk to my customers in New York or Florida or South Dakota, I got greater context around how people would use something, and it totally changed the way that I build products forever. Is that helpful, Jason? Cool, man.
Awesome.
One more?
This is the only time we have. Do you have time?
Huh?
Can you answer questions?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming. Let's give Nate another round of applause.